Being a new dad means you get a lot less time to game. Before E3 starts this weekend, here are a couple of the games that I'm looking forward to in 2021 on Xbox in between diaper changes. Hey, I'm Sam with Busy Dad Gaming. I believe that gaming as a dad should be about relaxing and recharging so we can give the best to our families. I do that by helping busy dads figure out what games to play and so they can relax and recharge from their day-to-day. I remember the original Ninja Gaiden on the NES clear back in 1988. I've been playing games since. I was about 5 years old, so that is around 35 years overall. Man, just felt old saying that out loud. But to this day, Ninja Gaiden on the original NES is still one of the hardest games for me to beat. I don't know if you remember the game, but you had the entire last level, and that last level ended up equating into 3 different boss battles, all in succession. I remember I'd end up getting through the first 2 bosses, and my thumb would end up just be hurting at that particular point, and you still had one more boss to go. And so then you'd end up going into that boss battle, and I was usually low health anyway, and it ended up being a struggle, and if you died, you end up having to go clear back to the beginning of the stage and have to do it all over again. Side note, I would not suggest playing this on the Switch because playing that on a Joy-Con was brutal. And that brings me to the games that have a release date here in 2021, and the first one, if you hadn't guessed it, was the Ninja Gaiden collection here, coming out on June 9th. Now, I remember when Ninja Gaiden came out on the original Xbox, and it was a relatively difficult game. They eventually ended up coming out with Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which is what is in this particular collection, but Sigma wasn't as hard, and it had some stuff removed, and even had some of the gore removed. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was the best option here. I think Ninja Gaiden Black actually was. Same thing with Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma. I think it wasn't the best version, but I think it was good enough for most people. And then Ninja Gaiden 3 was kind of meh in general, but at least it was cool enough to play. So the first game I'm looking forward to is Ninja Gaiden, the collection, and that brings me to D&D Dark Alliance. I've been really looking forward to this game since it was announced, and you had Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance re-release here just a few weeks ago. So this particular game is kind of in that similar vein, but I'm really looking forward to, based on the gameplay that was just released here a couple days ago and some of the previews that are coming out. So June 21st, day 1 Game Pass, I'm definitely looking forward to snagging that one. The next one I'm really looking forward to is Back 4 Blood. This is kind of a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead 2, so it'll end up having a lot of the same kind of formula if you're familiar with that game. If not, it's basically a 4-player co-op that you can go ahead and kill a bunch of zombies. Really, it's just a first-person shooter in that particular regard. But this comes out on October 11th, and I'm really looking forward to diving back into that kind of genre of game. Last one I ended up doing was kind of, that I can remember anyway, is DayZ, but it wasn't as refined as Left 4 Dead was, so this one I'm definitely looking forward to. The next one I'm really looking forward to is Far Cry 6, and that one comes out on October 7th. Now this one, I haven't played a Far Cry game all the way through since Far Cry 4. Primal was meh. It was just, you know, I didn't think it was that great, and then Far Cry 5, I kind of got bored. It was a lot of the same. So in 6, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the story is, what kind of villain ends up being presented, whether it's, you know, a really over-the-top kind of villain, or if it's more of a sinister type of person. So that one I'm really looking forward to, and a lot of the new mechanics that they've shown in some of the gameplay. I'm really looking forward to some of that as well. The next game I'm really looking forward to is Battlefield 2042. They just recently announced the trailer and when it was going to be launching, and then here on June 13th they're going to be showing some gameplay of it. The big caveat to Battlefield is that it's going to be multiplayer only. There's not going to be a campaign in this particular game, so I'm really curious to see how they're going to justify the $70 price tag, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now the last game I'm really looking forward to here in 2021 on Xbox is Dying Light 2, and that comes out December 6th. Now the original Dying Light, I really enjoyed that particular game. It has some pretty cool parkour mechanics, and in Dying Light 2 you're also getting a more refined version of that parkour, but you're also getting a faction system as well as potentially some better enemy AI. We'll actually see if that materializes or not, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how those factions interact, how your decision making impacts what happens in the world, and seeing what the overall story is in that particular game. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And that brings me to games that don't have a release date that I'm looking forward to, and some of these we might actually hear at E3, we'll find out. but the first one is obviously Halo Infinite. I've been playing Halo since the original one, and I can still remember hooking up 4 different Xboxes, having a giant LAN party with 16 people, and just having a really good time in the Halo universe. So with Halo Infinite, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they interact with the Halo universe, and hopefully it's better than 4 and 5 were. Those were kind of meh in my personal opinion. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they progress the story and how they utilize that open world that they've mentioned from last year's E3. The next game I'm really looking forward to that doesn't have a release date yet is Avowed. Now this kind of reminded me of Skyrim in a lot of ways, but with more expansion, prettier graphics, and I'm really curious to see what the actual story ends up being. As of right now, it is relatively vague, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about it at E3, but as of right now, I'm really excited to dive back into one of those kind of Skyrim type games to really play in an RPG sandbox. The next game I'm really looking forward to is Bright Memory Infinite. To keep in mind, this is being developed by a single person, which is awesome when you look at this particular game. It is definitely a stunner. It kind of reminds me of Titanfall 2 movement mechanics, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that's integrated into the game and potentially what kind of story is actually built around it to facilitate what you're actually doing in the game. The next game I'm really looking forward to is Hellblade 2. Hellblade 1 was definitely a great looking game. It has some really cool mechanics in there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they progress the story and how they can improve on what they did in Hellblade 1, so I'm definitely looking forward to that one as well. The last game I'm really looking forward to that doesn't have a release date yet is Stalker 2. I'm really curious to see how the game actually combines the different, the first person shooting with the horror elements and the open world that it's suggesting to have. I'm really curious to see how they mix all those different pieces together. I'm also really curious to see how your choices impact the story. It does mention that your choices do have impacts, so I'm just really curious to see how that mechanic actually plays out and whether or not it is truly impactful. So those are the games that I'm looking forward to that do have a release date and that do not have a release date. Now to approach this from a dad's perspective, because time is at a premium. Now if I can only pick one game out of all the games that I've mentioned in this video, it was a very close toss-up between Halo Infinite and Avowed. And in this particular case, I'm actually going to go with Avowed. I've been really looking forward to a Skyrim-like experience, but in a different universe. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it also potentially gives me the ability to jump in and out of the game at will to, again, change those diapers as needed. Now I want to hear from you dads out there. What games are you looking forward to here in 2021? And what games at E3 are you really hoping either get a release date or an announcement? Or what kind of new IPs are you actually looking forward to? Put them in the comments below. E3 is going to present us with a lot of information. I know you just end up hearing about Microsoft and the whole ecosystem they're starting to push forward. So I'm definitely looking forward to E3. Make sure to watch next week's video where I'll take the games that we end up learning about at E3 and dissecting a little bit of what I want to see and some of the games that I'm really excited for. So stay tuned and I'll see you over there.